All right, we're back. Adversity Podcast. I am Mambo and my co-host, Josh.
What's going on, guys?
Welcome back, man.
Thank you.
Okay, man. Adversity, real stories, real people. We have another great guest today. Who do we have today?
Today we got my boy Mike Evans. He owns a company called Dream Free. Mike and I have been friends now for almost a year, I think.
Yeah, almost
pushing a year. We met down in L.A. after one of Chance's shows.
Okay.
Right after the COVID stuff kind of started letting up. We had Chance on the podcast a couple episodes ago.
Okay, Chance, great artist.
Great artist, great dude. And so just kind of the whole basis of what we're doing with, this being a podcast that's encouraging.
Yes.
Mike is just oozes encouragement. If you get a chance, what's your social media handle?
My social media is Mike M_I_C_Evans. You also can catch me at Dream_Free_World. That's the brand name. And I'm always open to connect. Conversate with anyone. So if you want to reach out, go right ahead. I'll definitely tap in with you.
So let's just kind of dive into this, Mike. You're from Philly.
Yes, sir.
And how long did you grow up in Philly before you moved to go play football in college?
Well, Philly, my whole life. So Philly, about from the age of kindergarten, whatever, is born to 18 years old, I was in Philadelphia. And I can testament, that's a lot of my life experience being in Philadelphia. I could say that got me to where I'm at right now.
What did you think about Philadelphia that it kind of helps you make that kind of a statement about it?
Philly's a gritty city, man. Philly's like a city that you got to grow up kind of fast to kind of navigate it. So it's a city that you got to actually have experience with and know yourself to be able to navigate it. So I can say at an early age, it was a city that made me make a decision about what I wanted for my life. So I had to make that decision, I feel like, earlier than other people did.
So is it easy to go in the wrong direction where you grew up?
Yeah, easy to go in the wrong direction. And then also kind of I say the things and the stuff that you see and other people's trials and tribulations is also kind of like a lesson to you as well. So sometimes you have your life experience. I had a great mother and father, growing up. So I had a very supportive family. But I could say the people around me and being from the neighborhood and environment, you still have friends who have different situations. You still have other people that you have connections with in your neighborhood who have different situations. So you experience a lot of people's adversities around you, really.
Right. And did you ever have an experience where you think back to that moment and say, man, if I would have went in that direction, it would have been all bad for me?
You know what though? Too many.
Wow.
Honestly,
most people have one. You said too many.
Honestly, because the reason why I say that, because the margin of error is slimmer.
Right.
That's why I say growing up in that environment, you have to have a lot of wisdom and knowledge of the people that you're dealing with, the environments that you're in, and understand kind of like a little foresight of should I take this risk? So I always weighed kind of things very early of should I ride in the car with you right now?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't think I should ride in the car with you right now.
And most normal people don't think like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that makes me I would say hyper aware, of my surroundings and people. It made me where I had to really understand who people were and have great discernment early in my life. That's why I said I had to grow up very fast.
Right.
So
I like that word, discernment.
Yeah.
So when I was maybe 10 years old, my mother, she worked downtown in Jefferson Hospital, which was downtown Philadelphia. So when I was 10 years old, I used to have to walk 4 or 5 city blocks in my grade school. And this is in the middle of Center City at 10 and 9 years old.
Wow.
So I always was a person who, I used to catch the public transportation home when I was 12 years old.
Damn.
Jeez.
So
really?
Yeah, through subways and everything. I remember falling asleep on buses and damn, where I get left at? And I'm 11. And I gotta find my way home. My mom what took you so long? I'm I fell asleep on the bus.
I was snoozing.
So I just had to learn how to, that's why I said I had to learn how to navigate very early in life.
And and you said you had many experiences where you could have made the wrong choice, but
definitely
I think for everyone listening out there, every choice you make, there's a consequence, whether it's a good or bad.
That's true.
Yeah, and I think with your story, Josh, when we talked about it, and my story, we had similar experiences. We learned from those experiences,
Yep.
and that's why when I asked you about it and you said I had many, I was like, damn, like I had like 2 of them and got through them. So,
But you know what it is though? It's crazy because like I had many, but in those type of environments, they become your norm.
yeah,
So it's like you don't kind of know anything different than that now. So you start operating from that place though. So I could say like as I got out of Philadelphia and got to experience other things, that's when I really started to evolve as a person.
yeah, and I think and you sharing this too. It's you were sharing the walking to school and back. Like I did the same thing when I was going to school, but out here it's calm. You know what I mean? The worst you could do is maybe get run over if you don't look both ways. But being in a big city like that, I think a lot of people from small cities don't understand like how it is to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, definitely. I could say, but it also made me comfortable. Like I moved to LA, like came across the country and was cool. Like
Right.
also, so that's why I say like it took out a lot of fear out of myself of navigating different areas and just being around people I don't know. It's kind of like I'm gonna speak to somebody before they speak to me because I'm kind of like I want to know what it is in here right now. So that just made me just way more of a person that wanted to know people and be aware of my environment. I could say too though, being that happening at a young age for me.
And it hones in, like you said earlier, that level of discernment.
True.
So as you get older, I think that's a huge piece that a lot of us don't realize is very essential to functioning in normal good relationships, right? Is you've got to be able to discern not only your environment, but you got to be able to discern kind of what you're saying, the people that you're going to allow to be in that environment and the people that you're going to participate in their environment, right? And
Very true.
And if you don't want to get in the car, if you don't want to be in an environment with someone you don't trust to drive the car, then you got to have the wisdom and discernment and the wherewithal and the confidence to say, man, I appreciate it, but no, I'm staying back. Because peer pressure will come in, right?
Definitely.
And these cats try to get you to, well, why you don't, you're this or you're that, or these other, this plethora of things they'll label you with. But in the back of your mind, you just don't get in the car.
Right.
You stay where you're at, and then because what you'll end up doing is you'll end up developing a strength and a resolve that kind of helps you move forward, and you will find some friends that you do want to get in the car with.
I could say even time my mother didn't want me to get in the car with one of my brothers. So,
Wow.
so it wasn't even just friends; it was family too.
That's a whole nother podcast right there.
Because my brother, like, I'm the only kid between my mother and my father.
Uh-huh.
So my mother had a marriage before me. My father had a marriage before me. My other 2 brothers, they grew up different than me a little bit.
Right.
So like my one brother, he didn't graduate high school. My other brother, he didn't graduate high school either though. He dropped out 8th grade. He doing great for himself right now. He just tow trucks. He makes a lot of cash. That's tow truck industry, so he's making a way. But it's things that happen in his life that also led him there. So I also had examples around me of where I seen people going down certain paths.
Yeah.
And that's what really moved me away from things too, because I experienced my own siblings and people in my family facing their issues. And I was like, all right, I don't want to be that. So I learned from people close to me too not to make certain decisions as well from their mistakes.
Now, you went to school in Philly through high school?
Yeah, I went to Catholic high schools. One thing I say, my father, he was like super big on me having the right education. So he put me through like Catholic private schools. I went and played high school football. That was also that was one major thing I could say that really kept me out of trouble, was that I was an athlete. I played sports since I was in 2nd and 3rd grade. I was from basketball practice to football practice, so I never had time in the streets. My parents always kept me busy.
Yeah, I think sports, especially joining it at such a young age, because I was a badass kid too.
Yeah.
But when it came to sports, I think I was like 5. Looking back at it now, I learned discipline from doing that.
I did. I learned a lot of discipline, and I can say it was a place to channel that aggression.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a great outlet. Like I think that I don't think that we stress like mental health and mental awareness and like urban communities, especially like black communities when you're younger. So you never really learn how to deal with emotions and things that you're feeling. So like when you're mad and you're angry, I can go to a football sport. I can hit this kid as hard as I want to, and it's okay.
It's true, man.
It's true.
I go to school and because I used to get in fights and stuff when I was younger. I go to school and punch a kid, I'm suspended.
Yeah.
Right.
So
on the field, it's a whole different thing.
It's fine for me to be that person.
Yeah, I played basketball. I played basketball. I wasn't allowed to hit there either.
Yo, so how did you end up in LA?
I ended up at LA actually. Let me rewind it back. So after I left Philadelphia, I went to a junior college in Scranton, PA, which was called Lackawanna Junior College. There was a great experience. Played college football there. Ended up earning a scholarship to Jackson State University. Jackson State University wasn't one of my top choices on my list. I actually kind of fell into that offer when I visited the University of Louisville.
Okay. And
University of Louisville, went on an official visit, ended up talking to my parents saying we about to sign him. I go to the visit. I weigh in at 192 pounds playing linebacker. My film said 215 pounds. But when I got there on the visit, I weighed in at 192 pounds.
Wow. And whatever it takes to get the job, right?
Nah, but the coach came and see me. He seen the film. He seen I had game. And then he comes and they like, this kid showed up as a DB just now. So University of Louisville, while I was on the visit, ended up pulling my offer while I was on the visit. So I was a mid-year transfer. So I ended up having to take an offer that was on the table was Jackson State, University of Hampton, a school called Missouri State. Jackson State, I ended up committing to them because I had some friends that played in my junior college that's already down there.
Right.
So I go to Jackson State, have a great career there, wonderful experience at the HBCU. Like that was an eye-opening experience and something I definitely didn't think. Like when I first got there, I was mad. Like I'm D1, I'm big D1. They got me at this one little A. I know I can play here. But then I can say like the experience of the relationships and the people I got from it was like priceless as life went on. And then I ended up getting to LA because I do music. After I was done football, I had to find that transition. And I mean, being a black kid from the inner city, to be honest with you, the only things that you really know is sports and entertainment.
Yeah.
You don't really know. And then business became one of my other options because once I stopped playing football and I was in my last year of college and I started paying attention in class.
Yeah. That's usually when it happens, huh? When it's time to grow up is when we start paying attention.
I was like, dang, I might really got to get a job. And that kind of hit me like my last year of college. And I was like, all right, what they talking about in class now? Like, and I was never a poor student. I could say like always been a very bright person, but always knew how to pass. Like I never cared about school to be like, all right, I want to excel. I'm like, I know how to get a 72.
Yeah. Just enough, right?
Yeah, I knew how to get just enough. But then once it came to the point where I'm like, okay, I might really got to know what I'm doing.
Right.
I started paying attention. Then I was an entrepreneurship major when I was at school. And that kind of opened my eyes up. And when I seen that, I was like, oh, they teaching me how to be a business owner? And I was like, okay, this is right down my alley. So then that kind of like drove me down wanting to explore what it's like to be a business owner. Then I was like, all right, what can I do with business? And I was like, oh, I can get into music. And I said, okay, I know music. And now I'm learning business. No, I'm going to get into the music business.
Wow.
So I said, I could put both together. I know I can be successful at that if I put both together. And I flew out to LA. I had a friend of mine who I played football with when I was in a school called Volley Force Military Academy. So I went to a military academy for like 4 weeks, like 5 weeks. It was like a crazy experience. And I went there and I met this gentleman by the name of Matt Horn. Currently, he's the owner of a place called Horn Barbecue, which is up in the Bay. He's a Michelin chef right now. Got a wonderful story. I met him, and we was like 18-year-old kids, and we in this military school. So me and him kind of just bond off the bat, like, man, it's some bull. Like we over here dealing.
Didn't want to be there.
Yeah, didn't want to be there. Then we like listening to kids who like telling us like straighten up, and they like half your size. Like it was like ridiculous. So like we did that, and then like I couldn't stay there because like my GPA wasn't high enough, so I had to go to do a junior college. I had to go to junior college. I couldn't do a post grad year. So he ended up staying there. Me and him stayed in contact. My family took care of him while he was out there. I ended up going to another junior college that next semester. And when over the years, me and him always kept in touch. And then when I was graduating, he was like, Mike, what you doing? Like, I was like, man, honestly, I'm trying to get into music. I'm trying to come to LA. I'm going to find a studio to work out at. And he was like, well, shoot, come live with me. And
He was in LA.
he was in LA at the time. So I got my last refund check from college. Like out the door, this would happen. Jackson State, they wasn't really, honestly, at that time, like now, it's a crazy university. They're having a great experience. When we was there, it was not like that.
There was no Coach Dion.
Like, there was no Coach Prime when I was there. But our coaches were great recruiters, but I could say that way Dion is like instilling things into them, as in being excelling in life. Our coaches were like, our graduation rate was like poor. Right. So our last semester, they needed people to graduate under scholarship, so they wouldn't lose scholarship. So they paid for my last semester of school out the door. And they sent me a refund from that last semester. So I had like $3,000, spent a little bit, then I had like my last $1,500. I was like, man, I'm moving to LA. And I bought a one-way ticket, and I ain't go back.
Wow. So your relationship with what's his name? Matt Horn. Isn't it interesting how you guys both met and still have that relationship somewhere you guys didn't want to be at?
No, it's crazy because like I can say like when we talk about it to this day, we be like, dang, we would never thought like we was gonna be here now, like 20, because I knew him for almost like 15, 20 years now. Right. So like, and when you know somebody when you 18, I could say like, or 17, like that's like really when like before you get polished. So like I know him very well. Yeah.
Pre-polished?
Yeah, pre-polished. So like with me having conversations, like we be like, man, like we can't believe where we done came from now. Like
post-polish.
Yeah, post-polish. Like, so I can say like it's kind of like it's dope to see it though, the growth in people and the fact that like y'all actually still can grow together and still had a relationship. So like I could say that was big to see like how everything worked out in that situation too.
And I want to get into the dream free stuff, but I want to touch on that because on this podcast, that's kind of one of the things that we've been talking about is finding your tribe, right? Finding your crew, finding the people that you can live life with that's going to hold you accountable as well as provide that camaraderie, that brotherhood, because you can't have people in your life that it's a constant grind, right? That they're always trying to straighten you out or you're always trying to straighten them out. You have to have those friends that you get polished together. Right. Because even now, as we grow older, like, and I'm in my 40s and I'm post-polished, right? I mean, but I'm still being polished every day, right? And I think that as we kind of attack this, adversity piece in our life and how frequent it is and how often it happens is how you are able to get through some of those places. And you even said it organically is you had people in your corner because you had great discernment and wisdom to surround yourself with people that were wanting to motivate you and push you in the right direction. And you were wanting to do the same thing to them. Yeah. Which I think is so awesome. I mean, I just that to me really defines the essence of a beautiful human being, and I think that's why Mike and I, whenever we first met, I mean, it was like love at first sight when we first met.
How did you guys meet?
It's so random too when I met Josh. Like I was at Third Base, which is a bar that's in Hollywood, and I just looked.
Is that by Trejo's Tacos?
Yes, sir. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I look over to this guy and I'm like, I don't know. I just said, "Hey, what's going on with you, man?" He's like, "Hey, man,
big ginger looking dude over here."
And then me and him just start talking. And I'm just like, "Yeah, man, what's going on? Like, man, you look cool." And then me and him just start talking and shooting. And then he was like, "Man, y'all want to go out?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know a spot." So we go to a club that's like 4 blocks away, and we had a group of people. I had a group of people with me, had a group of people with him, and then we just all go ahead and mob to this club.
We bring our 2 groups together. There's like 13 of us cruising around.
Then we cruise around to the club, and we like, yeah. He's like, I got everybody. We're going in. And I'm like, all right, cool. We go to the bar. We all drink. Great night. Everybody had fun. And it was just random. It was just like, the energy was just good. Like from the moment, that's why he said, that's why I laughed when he said it was like love at first sight. Like I know what he means though.
That is funny. So it's just a random bar.
Just a random, yeah. Chance had a show that night,
Yeah.
and so I brought a bunch of people with me to go to the show, and Chance had wanted to go out afterwards, you know, and hang out. His dad was in town, who was a mentor of mine, right? And so we were just out kind of hanging out, and it was just a great vibe. And we'd been at that third base place, I think, before to eat some food, and we just kind of cruised back over there. Like afterwards, Chance was like, all right, where are we going to go? I said, man, I know a place. So we walked back over to third base, and Mike was in there with all his buddies. And he and I just got to rapping back and forth, and it was like just so organic, man. And it was like, it was awesome. You know, when you can just flow in a conversation with someone and you can see that they're like-minded, you know, the opportunities are endless. And
now
so,
let me ask you guys both the questions. If this was 10, 20 years ago, would this had happened?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know what though? Because I could say I always one thing dynamic that's very different about my life, I can say, is that, like, same way as I tell you, like, I had to survive Philadelphia and do these things. I went to a private school where I was like only 3 black kids in the class as well too, though. And then my god sister is a white lady, RP. My god sister, who actually was my godfather was a white man,
right?
Like, so like that's my dad's best friend.
See, because, and the reason I ask that is because sometimes, you know, I know, you know, from I'm Mexican.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, you know, when you want to do business, like, your families always tell you, like, oh, be careful.
There you
I'm
go.
like, what do you mean be careful? Like,
you know what though, and that's why I say it's like I never actually really experienced that, because I had been put in so many situations where I had to connect with people like that at an earlier age.
Yeah.
And my parents kind of did it on purpose, they said too. They put me in environments where it's like, one of my good friends right now, his father's Ralph Natali, like, who's like a mob people in Philly, like,
right.
And one of my good friends, that's his godfather, that's his grandfather, and I'm cool with the guy's son. So I used to go to their house and spend the night, eat 7 fishes and Italian food. Like,
it's so true, because I think we had this conversation when we shared our stories about, you know, getting in trouble and having to be a part of the system for a while. I still remember to this day, one of my cousins, his mom, my aunt, said, "Hey, don't hang around with your cousin," because I was considered the trouble kid. But, you know, fast forward now, you know, shouts out to my cousin Angel. They should have named him Devil. He ended up being the bad kid, man. but it's just crazy, because, you know, when you're younger and then you look back at the things that, you know, people put in your head. They didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
I was very fortunate growing up. I was a hooper, you know, so I had a bunch of different dynamics around me as far as personalities, and it was in East Texas too, right? I mean, you know, some of my best friends, you know, were in Mexican gangs, right? And I mean, I hid one of my buddies in my apartment from the cops while they were looking for him, you know. So I had these really unique, eclectic experiences with some really beautiful people. I think for me, probably the biggest wake up call for me was I was a kid. He's my best friend since I was 6 years old. He's now my brother-in-law. His dad is Charlie Pride, who just passed away, black guy. His mom is a white stewardess that they had an affair for 10 years together, right? Wow. And this was the byproduct, was Tyler. Well, obviously, Charlie's wife didn't want him to have anything to do with Tyler. And this was growing up in a really, really unique time, right? Where we would go to class and the black kids didn't want to hang out with him and the white kids didn't want to hang out with him because he didn't belong. He was, they called him an Oreo. Yeah. You know, and I mean, it wrecked him. And I remember just the pain. He got his ass kicked one day at church. And I remember him just laying in the hallway of the church, just crying. Yeah. Right. Because he just didn't think he had any place to belong. And for me, I was the product of a single mom. Nobody wanted to deal with me either. Yeah. Right. So it didn't matter what my skin color was. Nobody wanted to deal with me either because of my situation. So I just learned as a very, 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 very young kid that your skin color has zero to do with who you are as a human being. God created all of us in his image, right? All of us. And so there's a reality there that I think a lot of us, and unfortunately still there's a lot of people need to realize on both sides of the table.
Yeah.
And I think it's getting better. And I love my relationship with Mike, but it doesn't have anything to do with him being black.
Yeah.
Right? It has everything to do with he's a good human.
Yeah.
And he's got, and we're going to get into the dream free stuff here in a second, but he's got this resolve and this vision in his brain of what he wants life to look like. And it has everything to do with motivating and encouraging people and doing it through dream free.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's kind of segue into how did dream
what is dream free?
It's kind of, go into what is dream free? That's a great question,
So
Mike.
I can tell you how dream free actually came to like fruition. It was a saying that me and one of my friends used to say to each other all the time. And it was basically just saying like, dream without limitations. So basically becoming that best version of yourself and actually thinking out of your situation. Like I can say, that's something that actually got me to where I'm at in my life though. So I'm a product of dream free, I feel like.
Right.
Like how I moved across the country and said, I'm gonna sleep on my friend's couch and find a gig in the studio, even though I didn't have nobody I didn't have a studio set up if I got here. I just knew that it was going to work out for me.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. So like that's a part of like the dream free concept, I could say. Even the fact of when I came out of high school, I didn't have any Division I offers. I had to go ahead and figure that part out. And then I had my coaches telling me, just go to the D3 school, man. Like, what you trying to do that for?
Right.
And I always said, like, I never let anybody place their limitations on me. I always knew who I was. And that's a big part of what the dream free thing was, because I can't say that if I would have just took that Division III offer and played there, I'd have never met the girl that I talked to who lived in LA. I'd have never met Matt Horn, who actually the person I lived in LA with.
Right.
I would have never been in my life wouldn't look like it is right now. So sometimes it's not always the fact of that you're pushing further for that one thing to happen. You're pushing further because that's what life is telling you to do.
Right.
You don't know what the outcome is going to be from that decision. And if you fall in between, you fall short of it, you probably fall right where you're supposed to be anyway. So that's kind of the concept of that too.
So is dream free like I mean you mentioned music and
it's the music. So right now it's a brand. So right now I do merch around it. I also do content around it where I speak to people who are entrepreneurs and I motivate them with basically like self-development.
Okay.
And basically take my experiences of being an entrepreneur and how I built my businesses and how I pursued my dreams and give them advice on basically like the trials and the tribulations that you'll face on the way to trying to achieve the goals that you're trying to do in life. So I can say that I'm a person who walks people through the experience because most people will tell you the good of results, but they won't tell you how to get through the valleys of a situation.
And that's kind of what this podcast was built on is everyone sees the success. They don't see everything that led to it. I mean, there's a lot of mics in this world. You know what I mean? And you starting this and
they're not as sexy as this one is.
I take that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who go through very similar situations, and I think on our first episode where we really got deep on our stories, there was people that I grew up with that didn't know that, most of my teen years were in juvenile hall.
Wow.
And they thought I just moved away somewhere for this, for a couple years.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy when people get to know you at a different level, and especially when it comes to the struggles, and then they see where you're at years later. I think that just shows a lot of people that I could do it too, because a lot of people give up when they go through a certain situation.
Definitely.
Especially when it's a bad situation where people look at you a different way. And I think this program that you have really would help a youngster or someone who went through a similar thing and then making a bad choice, getting in the wrong car.
Definitely.
So you sharing your story and us doing this podcast, I think is going to help, And
then I think more like what I also really try to stress is that, like you say, like you have a story of being a juvenile. I want to let people know that like you can keep that authentic story and share that with people and don't be ashamed of those things and be able to kind of explain to people and show your triumphs off too though as well.
Right.
Because everything that happened to you actually is a part of the reason you are who you are.
Right.
So sometimes you can look at those things as, oh, that was a bad experience, or you can look at those things like they may have been bad at that moment, but now would I take those back? Because who says that the person I am would have ever developed into this person? So I try to get the people to focus on the development of the person that's happening in front of your face and see who you're turning into. And that's probably going to actually have you be able to help a lot of people, because a lot of people haven't been in that place. A lot of people haven't had those experiences. So you're actually talking to people, and you'll be surprised how many people you can connect with a story that you thought that nobody else understand.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like I was embarrassed to share it, growing up. But as I got older, I remember hearing a similar story from it was a Latino judge who went to juvenile hall. Kind of similar story, but he ended up being a judge. And I'm just like, wow, that's crazy how he's sharing his story. And once I started sharing that story, I seen it in the younger generation that would look up to me, kind of looking at me as like, man, if he did it, I could do it too.
Definitely.
And
I can say that's like what it's all about, though. It's like I feel like in life, everybody's been put here for a purpose,
right?
And everybody has a life that you're speaking to, or a purpose that you have to carry out, and someone that you have to influence. They say like the greatest act is being influence or being a blessing to somebody else.
Right.
So if you can do that through your story and share with people, like, man, that's great for real.
See, and I like how you said that you're doing merch too, and it's just from a saying that you and your boys used to say, because I see that a lot too with a lot of clothing companies. When I ask them like, yo, where did that come from? And they use a similar thing to make a business out of it. And, not only that, something positive out of it.
Yeah. And I think that like, I always wanted people to hold on to it and adapt it as a lifestyle more than I just wanted you to have a cool t-shirt.
Yeah. I
more wanted you to wear it, and it's something that represents a message that you're about. So, like I got one shirt that I'm coming out with right now. It says "Control the Narrative," and that's basically telling somebody like, take the pen, write your story.
Yeah.
Don't be scared to take it. Don't let life happen to you. You feel me? Like life is happening for you, not to you.
Right.
That's what they're more saying. It's like, understand that whatever you put in your mind or whatever that thought is that you have, execute on it. Control the narrative. If you want it to work this way, then make it work that way. And if it don't work that way, guess what? You wrote that story. Now go write the next line to the book.
Next chapter, right?
Next chapter. But don't feel scared to grab life and take control of your destiny more than anything though.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially like, the where I grew up at, we always waited to see what would happen instead of us going after it.
There you go.
And
That's so true.
And I think with my my parents, and I've shared this story before, is like I started as a DJ, and once I started becoming an adult, my grandparents and parents were trying to get me away from like, you need to get a real job. That's not gonna pay the bills. Then, you fast forward to 10 years later, you got these DJs getting $1 million deals in Vegas. And I was like, man, if I should have just stuck to it. Yeah. So it kind of shows you, and I mentioned this earlier, it's like, sometimes people will put things in your head and they don't know what they're talking about.
You know what? Like, that's why Kobe Bryant is actually one of my favorite athletes.
Why is that?
Because Kobe Bryant, he's a regular man.
Yeah. He
wasn't like as athletic gifted as a Michael Jordan. He's not the physical specimen of LeBron James. He's the testament of what happens when you work hard and you convince yourself that you're the best. It's the convictions for me with him.
Yeah.
Even Muhammad Ali, I recently was listening to, because I listen to quotes. Sometimes I was listening to great people. I listen to like Ali spills. And one thing I seen why I think Ali is the greatest boxer of all time is because mentally he thought he was the greatest boxer of all time. That's simple. It's simple as that. He didn't give anybody else an opinion about who he thought he was. And once you went up there, it's like, how are you not now?
Yeah.
He's telling people, I'm gonna beat him. He can't do it. He can't see me either.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna see something you haven't seen ever before. And he's telling himself this because when he needs to believe it deep in his core. And that's why I say it's like once you kind of put things deep inside of you, it's rooted there now.
Mm-hmm.
It's nobody can unroot it now. It's rooted in you. Put it there. And that's why I said like at a one point in time I stopped letting people tell me what I'm possible of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed my life, I could say right there. That's what really changed my life is when I stopped listening to people. And now I can't say I don't get discouraged at times, but sometimes I look in the mirror and be like, but it's been working.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times too when people tell you that, like, you know, you think even giving that thought, like, are they for real? Were they right? Like it still messes with you mentally. Yeah,
you gotta get that out, you know, because it's kind of back to what we've always talked about, having wise counsel.
Right,
you know,
it's very true.
If you have wise counsel in your network, then you're going to be able to communicate your vision and your dream and why you're doing what you're doing to that person, bounce that idea off of them. And instead of them giving you advice that they think is good advice, they'll give you advice. Right. Like I like it when I'm talking to people and they ask me, so how do you feel about that? What's your thought process on that? How are you thinking what angle are you going to come in?
Because sometimes you have the answer.
Right. Yeah. And you just don't realize it. Yeah. But instead of, and I'm fortunate that I have a big network of friends that are that way, right? They think like that. It's not like, here, let's force you to do this, this, and this. We're not going to criticize you if you make this decision and we think you should have made this decision. We're going to support you because, especially at this stage in the game, we're all older. We all have jobs. You know, we all have our own lives and our own kids and all that other stuff going on that we have to navigate through. Right. And, you know, and you've got to have those kind of people where you can pick up the phone, say, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is a decision I need to make, or this is an idea I had, or this is an opportunity that's in front of me. This is how I feel about it. This is the way I'd like to go about it. What do you think? You know, and then have positive influence and positive feedback into what it is you're doing. I think that's one of the things I love about Mike and I's friendship. It's you know, being able to, a lot of what our communication has been over the phone, because it's really difficult to get down to LA and it's really difficult to get up here, right?
True.
And he's got his thing going, I've got my thing going, but we follow each other on social as well, and it's cool because both of our platforms on social we try to use to elevate, encourage, and motivate people, right, and push them forward, not push them down. And so it's fun. I'll get on his stuff and I'll see it and I'll shoot him a text and be like, dude, that word you put out on social was perfect, man. Definitely. That was beautiful. Just keep grinding, keep doing that stuff. And it's kind of like we were talking about when that random text you can send to a friend, right? And they respond back and go, dude,
very true.
I needed that right now. Like I was really kind of doubting some things. And
I think that we talked about that in episode 1 or the intro episode.
Yeah.
And it's funny because right before I came over here, I got a random text from someone and it was just like, hey, how you doing, bro? And that's all it was.
Yeah.
And we've been going back and forth.
Was that me?
All morning.
Wow.
You did it earlier this week, I think. And I was a bad one that didn't reply. But it's just weird because now those moments stand out more for me where like I can't ignore it. You know, they took the time to reach out and see how I'm doing. So I always take the time just because you never know where that conversation's going or what that person's going through.
Right.
That maybe you could help.
You really don't. Yeah. I mean, and there's been some times in my life where I knew I should have reached out to someone and I didn't, and it was too late.
Right.
Right. And I'm not going to go into details on it or any of that, but you know, it's just a reality that we have, you know, and sometimes I feel like when we get that tingle in our soul to reach out to someone, we can sometimes even suppress it because we don't want to be overreaching our boundaries, or we don't want to be that guy, or what, you know, ego comes in, and what if they don't respond back? You know, am I gonna get my feelings hurt about it, or you know, I'm gonna feel like, you know, I'm no longer cool, or, and if you can just get all that out of your space, get all that out of your head, and just kind of like the Kobe mentality, Mambo mentality, I'm the greatest. I am who I am. I'm the best Josh Purser that anybody's gonna be. And there's nobody else that can be me.
Right.
And I can't be anybody else. It's not my responsibility to be anybody else. My responsibility to my son is to be me, his dad. My responsibility to my wife is to be me, her husband. My responsibility to my employees is to be me, the boss.
Right.
Right. There's all these pieces of me that I have responsibility to be to
Very
these
true.
different pieces in my life. But at the end of the day, if I start going, well, I could just be like this, or maybe I could be like this, or I could change this, or maybe I could look like that guy doing this, or maybe I could go over here and do this piece and maybe pull that in. Then all of a sudden I'm reeling. Mm-hmm. I'm reeling because I'm all of a sudden, I don't know who I am anymore.
Right.
And you can't push through this life. What we were talking about, the breakfast, with that vision.
Yeah, with that vision.
When you get that vision of what you're supposed to look like and what it's supposed to look like, if you can just hold it and push through it and go, you're going to find, you're going to have adversity. You're going to fall down.
You are.
You're going to crack.
You are.
But if you've got people around you that can love you and help kind of say, hey, remember why you're doing this.
Right.
It's not what you're doing. It's why are you doing it? Mm-hmm. Why are you doing what you're doing? Then it's like you can kind of get some breath back in your lungs, pop your chest out a little bit, put your eyes forward again on the path that you're on.
Very true.
And then just take that next step, right? One step at a time.
And then I could say I love the hustle though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us do.
I love the hustle though. I'm addicted to the hustle though. I could say like that's the one part I could tell anybody like who really want to be successful. Like I'm a football player at heart, so it's like I like when the game tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't play till the game get tough.
I think a lot of people think it's going to be easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Everybody would be doing it.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like when I wanted to play football, I wanted to play at the highest level. When I went to college, I wanted to play at the highest level. I always had the mindset of that, like, I'm a competitor. Want in life, I want to compete at the highest level. Mm-hmm. So I don't mind the adversity at times because I'm kind of like, we about to see what you really made of.
Yeah,
it's true. That's how I felt on that one basketball run this morning.
and that part of it is like, all right, that's a little part where like people like, you're not wired right.
It's true.
But actually, like, to me, going for my dreams and things, it's the closest thing to sports to me. So like when you done with sports and you're not in that thing of anything or more competing in that way, you're trying to always find that, scratch that itch again. It's like, what can I do that give me that same high? Being an entrepreneur gives me that same high as when I play sports. Makes me want to, I go up the night before, I'm thinking about what I got to do tomorrow. I'm in a car riding, listening to Jeezy. Right now, that's my CD right now. Listen to Jeezy right now.
That's the one.
That's the one right there.
Just say CD.
Yeah, no, well, my CD. I'm from a different streaming platform I'm using at the moment.
Yo, I still say CD.
You still have one of those compact disc players in your car?
No, it's a streaming platform I'm using at the moment. I'm playing Jeezy right now, and that kind of gets me amped, because it's like I like the hustle.
Yeah.
And I'm finding now that I like that, but then I also can say that I'm also understanding balance too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good.
So
that's
it's kind of like loving the hustle, but then also understanding balance. Like I just met a gentleman yesterday, like one of my homegirls, she has a vending machine company. Mm-hmm. She's doing like women's beauty products out of vending machines. She's been working on it for a while. I got to meet a gentleman that actually makes some machines. He's out in Corona, and I'm talking to him. He's been a business owner like 20 years. And he, out of nowhere, he has a conversation with me about adversity, kind of like. And he's like, yeah, man, I done lost businesses, been very successful, had money, been through 3 marriages. He's like, man, I can tell you one thing's like this. The business is going to be there. Mm-hmm. The value the family. Don't miss those things. And this is a 65-year-old man. I'm a person where I say it's like I get discernment. I'm very wise as far as like I will listen to somebody before I run into that wall.
Yeah.
I'll be like, all right, he's telling me right now because I'm like I said, I love the hustle, but then also I have to remember I love my family.
Yeah.
So sometimes I gotta remember like, all right, don't get so caught up in success because there's certain things that success not gonna buy you back.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah, I think too, and I recently thought about this because I work so hard sometimes that I forget that my wife is at home, my kids, and before you know it, they're grown ass adults, and you're at home, just you and wifey, and to me, it's like what you just said, reaching success, and then at the end when you get there, and your family not being there, you're gonna realize like, yo, what I'm doing this for my family. That's what I'm doing it for.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's it's an investment, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's an investment like that has residual impact
Yeah.
on your family. It's, my son, I think that's one of the things I've had to really find balance in, especially out here when we open this business and it being open 7 days a week. Kind of what we were talking about at breakfast. When I cracked, when I had my mental breakdown last year, a lot of it was because I wasn't able to spend any time with my son.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we work together, and we're around each other all the time. So we were starting to butt heads with each other. I wasn't spending any time with my kid at all, except for to maybe get him to school, maybe see him for 30 minutes when I'd get home. And I just kind of got to a place where I was, and it's not like the store was doing any better.
Yeah.
We were still dealing with COVID and chip shortages, and so I was just literally running my head against the wall, over and over and over again, and kept saying, eventually I'm going to plow through this thing, right, and then I'll have time. And what I realized is, quit running your head into the damn wall.
Yeah.
Back up, turn around, go hang out with your family. And figure out a way to kind of navigate through this thing and
All
give
that
your
stuff will be there
family
still.
it's all going to be there, right? Because we could build this amazing business and be super well off and be able to afford to do whatever we wanted. But if my kid doesn't want to have anything to do with me because I didn't take the time to invest in his life, then what's the point?
Yeah.
And then that love is a fuel, man.
Yep.
Like that love, you don't know, like until you don't know you was missing it until you had it sometimes.
Yeah.
Cause like me being out, I've been in LA for 10 years, so I may go home sometimes. Like I'm super working all the time. I go home maybe one time, see my family. Like my parents are older. My parents are in their 60s now. So now my mindset's starting to change. This was making me actually do that now because I've been out here for 10 years and I haven't been around my family as much. Got my nephew like 12 now. I got nephews like 4 or 5. I'm missing them growing up. I want that connection with them. I haven't, but I've been doing all these things because I also want to give my family a certain quality of life.
Right.
But it's like, would they care about it if I wasn't
They probably
there?
care more about the time with you.
They care more about the time with me, actually, though. Like my nephew more care about me playing Legos with him more than he actually care about me being able to buy him Legos. Like he more care me being there with him. So now it's starting to shift my perspective on things. And even with my parents and my father getting older, cause my father, he had like a heart pacer put in his heart maybe like 10 years ago, and right now the doctor was telling him that he might actually have to go back in for another surgery soon. So that's on his mind heavy right now.
Right.
And my father right now, I want to say like he like 69.
Yeah.
So to me, in my head, I'm like, I gotta get home to my father.
Yeah.
It's not because he's good health, he take care of himself, but it's like
it's the time
spending
thing, with
him. Like I want to spend time with him now. So
yeah, one of when you say that, there's friends that you run into that you haven't seen in years, and you just pick up with where you guys left off. Sometimes like when a friend is going through something, you just being there means a lot more than
then
you sending the flowers, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's very
man.
true.
So let's talk about the music thing a little bit. Like what are you doing in music?
So in music, I do audio engineering, I do production, I'm an artist, I'm a triple threat in it. I've been doing everything in it I've been rapping since I was 6 years old. I've been producing for the last 10, 12 years. I work with my mentor, Neil Poe. We worked on Igor for Tyler, Flower Boy for Tyler, the Creator. Also did K Tronada, CD Bubba, Doja Cat, who else? Anderson Paak, host of people. He actually won the Grammy the last 2 years for Best Rap Album of the Year.
Right.
And I've been able to be in the room and involved with those projects. So I've been around the industry in a good sense right now in LA, and mostly that's why haven't been able to leave.
Right.
because that's been taking up a lot of my time of just like networking and meeting a lot of people and getting in the rooms and talking to people. So I can say that's been me for music, and then also working on my own project, but then working on other people's project. There's a few independent artists that I work with as well. Actually, like Chance, I did a record with Chance maybe like 7 months ago. At one time, me and him and Chance got in the studio.
All right.
So it's like with music, I never wanted to just get on. It's always been about building a brand as far as
Putting in work and
putting in work, and then being able to have ownership in music. To me, music is not about just somebody knowing my name. I want to own my records.
yeah.
So
I think we've talked about this. I do a lot of podcasts, so I forget which one it was. But a lot of people look to get signed, and then once they're signed, they want to get unsigned.
yeah,
It's not what a lot of people think it is. But I mean, you're thinking the right way when it comes to the music world.
well, I can say like when I told you earlier, I said when I got into music, I was like, oh, I know music, but then I got this part called business that a lot of people don't understand about the music industry.
Yeah.
And what I did when I got into the music industry is being around my mentor and being able to be so close. I sat back and I learned the business. Once I learned the business, now I'm in a position where I'm able to position myself in a place where I can get my value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think a lot of people don't do, because they get caught up wanting to get there so fast in it. And they want to understand like, well, I always knew that in music. I was building a company, and I looked at it and said, any company takes 10 years to build a great company. So I'm right on track, I feel like right now. Like I'm about 10 years in it. I finally figured out, I said, I'm at a good trajectory, whereas now I have experience.
And as you're figuring out, you're building your network with the right people.
Building my network with the right people, and then also being able to have the experience and knowledge that I need to be able to also produce at a high level as well, though, too, so I can deliver on that request that somebody may have for me. So I can say, like, most people don't like to put it in the oven. They say they want it microwave.
Yep. They want it quick.
Yeah, they want it quick. So, like, I never mind with actually, like, taking my time with it.
So I hope someone that's listening that's asked me questions about, how the music stuff works, it doesn't happen overnight.
No,
that's for sure. And I'm glad you said that. It taking 10 years to build a business. I hope people get that part of it too, because I mentioned the speed bumps that we run into. A lot of us give up on it. That's when you got to keep going. That's when you got to switch gears and take it to the next level. Another thing that you said that I feel is important is relationships. Build those relationships. You saying a lot of the people that you did work behind the scenes, that says a lot in the music world.
Yeah, definitely. I could say, and then also being able to learn from them and see how people are doing it in the position that you want to do things in. So I could say, like how you said, the relationships, being around those relationships and not always expecting that relationship of somebody to do something for you.
Right.
Take the knowledge. Don't always expect somebody to do something for you, because it's not always. Sometimes it's like you got to one up on everybody. He just showed you how to do it.
Yeah.
Now go apply that in your own way, and you're probably ahead more than everybody else because you just learned from somebody who really does it.
Yeah.
So I never came in the music industry also expecting something from people. Always knew that, all right, just show me how you do it.
Yeah.
And I'll create my own opportunity, I always felt like, because opportunity is something that you create by opening your mouth. Firm believer in that. Like, if when I first came to LA, I used to stop people all the time. Like, I'll see a rap artist somewhere, I ain't here with his entourage or whoever. I'd be like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Yeah, audio engineer. This is my name, Mike Evans. I work out this studio right here if you ever need an engineer. I stop. So I would see like Will I Am. And I'll stop people in the middle of the street. It'd be like, here's my card. And people be like, why do you just walk up to people like that? I'm like, yo, I need them, because to me it was never about them taking the offer and really work and them actually calling me. Right. It was like they need to see my face. So when they see my face, they be like, "That was the crazy guy that walked up to me."
When you're on stage
Exactly.
getting that Grammy, huh? There's that dude.
I know that dude.
I actually know that guy. That guy walked up to me like recently. Like I just seen an artist named Kyle. He's an artist, and
I think he's from out here.
he's from
he's
around
from
here.
Ventura. Yeah,
Okay,
Kyle.
so I seen Kyle. I seen Kyle at a Whole Foods that was round my way, like off La Cienega. I seen him, and I was like, let me go introduce myself to Kyle really quick. And I walk up to Kyle and I catch him, and Kyle's just walking gingerly. And I say, "Hey, Kyle." And I'm like, "Hey." He's like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Man, my name Mike Evans, man. I produce, I engineer. If you ever looking for engineer, reach out to me." He actually knows some of the people that I actually know too, though,
Right.
which is pretty cool, though. Like one
And
of the people I know.
That's the thing about the music world too. It's a small world.
And that's why I try to tell people, like, the networking of it, you got to do a lot of footwork in the music industry. And you just got to be felt because
Stand out.
Stand
Yeah.
out. And then all it takes is one.
Yep.
You don't need the one good project,
Yep.
one good song.
Yep.
And then people would be like, "Yo, that was a good song you made."
It was.
The other
Yeah.
5 was bad, but the one you made was pretty good. So
Yeah.
it's like the odds, and it was always to me like, you one hit away.
And see, you mentioned names
Yeah.
that I knew
Yeah.
from being, on the radio side of things.
Yeah.
I mean, all the artists that you mentioned are like artists we've played on the radio station.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. You said you love the hustle. That's exactly what it is, man.
That's the part of it. And then I think that people respect that because at one point in time, that artist was in your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
How you think they got there? They was crazy enough to walk up to another person too.
Yeah.
So it's just that, like, people will see they'll see it in you. You don't have to always hound them or be like, "Look at what I'm doing." It's like, if you approach them in the right way, they'll be like, I remember when I was like that.
Yeah. you know what's funny when you mention that? I remember I'm a big DJ Quick fan. Like
Okay.
I've been a Quick fan since I first heard his first song. I remember I used to have a studio, and the group that I was working with, they had a little demo, and we ran into DJ Quick at a Fry's, and I ran back to my car because we had the demo CD in there. And my boy who was in the group, he's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm going to go give him this." And he's walking out, and I just went over there, and they couldn't believe that I did that. And I was like, I couldn't believe I did that. But something told me like, "Yo, you got to do this." So years later, I started working in radio. And when I first had a chance to interview him, he kept looking at me and he's all like, "Yo, I know you from somewhere." And I told him the story and he remembered the story.
Okay.
I mean, he never called back or anything, but it's just crazy.
But hey, he knew who I was.
Exactly.
He meant to call back. He just lost the number.
That is funny. I got a funny DJ Quick story too. I met DJ Quick too before. Actually, I was in a session with DJ Quick randomly. So one time, I work out this studio called the Mix Room that's in Burbank, and we was recording out of there. Me and my friends, we had the room next door,
Right.
And DJ Quick had the other room next to us. And I had one of my friends in town from Philly who rap, and I was working on his project. He's an artist I was working with at the time, and he coming from home, so he like, "Man, like, I'm out here. He don't know nothing." His first week out here, he running the DJ Quick at the studio. And Quick's just like, "What's up?" He like, "Oh," I look up. He sounds like, "Oh, that's DJ Quick." and he was like, "What's up, Quick?" And it was kind of funny. And we working in the studio that week, and it's funny because when you're in the working environment with him, like, you kind of don't fan out a little bit.
Yeah.
So when Quick seen us there, he was like, we just working. We not saying nothing to him. We not saying. Quick see us, he like, "Hey, man, what y'all doing over there? You know what? Come in the session." And he bring us into the session. And then I got to see DJ Quick make a beat in front of me. So that was kind of like one of my highlights of where I had these moments in the industry where it was like, all right, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. That's why I say, like, that's why you said, like, when you was like, you're going to face that adversity, but then you also going to have moments that's going to confirm you to keep going.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's crazy you shared that because you mentioned that, you engineer, produce. Artist. That's Quick right there.
Yeah.
And a funny story that it was a documentary that I had seen on him. You remember when they re-released the Prince album, one of the Prince albums?
Okay.
He did. It's funny that he didn't like the way it sounded when they remastered it. So he went back to remaster it for himself so he could get the right sound for it. So I know how engineers and producers, they're perfectionists. It's like you got to take the work away from them, because if you leave it, they're just going to keep working until they think it's perfect.
And it's funny you say that, and that's why I can say also why I've been doing this for 10 years. Because I'm a super perfectionist when it comes to it. Like I really want to make something that stands the test of time, and I want to make something that I can leave my mark on the industry with. I don't want to just
timeless. You want something timeless, yeah.
I want something timeless, and even if it's my music or it's music that I did for another person, I just want to be able to say like, "Yo, we did that."
Yeah,
and that's why I can say like, to me in the music thing, it was never about just getting on. To me, it was about actually making something. I loved hip hop. Like hip hop, I love hip hop.
Right.
Like it was something that actually at the time when I really got into hip hop, you know, it was Nas, Jay-Z. My brother was super backpack, so I'm listening to like Tribe, The Roots. Matter of fact, I had a Roots song yesterday I sent my brother called Proceed. And I remember he used to play this song every morning when I woke up. Like, and that was his
an anthem?
That was a morning anthem. Every morning he played Proceed from The Roots. And that's what kind of like got my love for hip hop. I had a love for hip hop that's really authentic to, like I say, the art form of it. Wow. So I also respect that part of it. And my music is basically where I share my stories. I share who I am as a person, but that's kind of like, I say, the soundtrack to my life is my music.
And it's, I think it's very true. I mean, I remember when I first heard, you know, I was a big NWA fan.
Yeah.
Eazy-E, DJ Quick, and you know that was more of the hood stuff.
Yeah.
that I like. But now, listening to it now and listening to a Jay-Z album, it's crazy to me how it was about I'll say doing hood rat stuff back in the days, but now it's more of
the corporate American now.
Yeah, now it's like you listen to Jay-Z and he's teaching you stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I can say I always like Reasonable Doubt. That's always one of my favorite CDs, and I never knew why I liked it until I got older. It was the conviction in that CD of a hustler.
Yeah.
He didn't like, because that's why I said growing up in Philly, I could say one thing about it was that I had an insatiable urge to make something of myself because I didn't see anybody do it. And I also like, I could say a time that really pushed me towards Dream Free, that really made me focus on making my life with something. I had a friend in high school, about 17, when my friends was killed. High school football player with us. All of us went to grade school. His father was a police officer, and he got killed at a barbecue on like Memorial Day weekend. Right. And that right there was something that I faced, and I was kind of like, I'm going to go for everything in my life I ever wanted.
Right.
Because I know like it really wasn't promised to me, because it wasn't that he was just a bad kid. He did a little something. He sold a little drugs at times. And that's why I say decisions made. I had a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
At times, even when I was in school, he had his gun in my locker.
Yeah.
So he'd be like, Mike.
This is the stories we shared. It's in someone who you said he passed away at such a young age.
Yeah.
That could have been any of us.
That could have been any of us. And he was my dude. I used to go over his crib. Like he was the first person, like, actually, like, girl, we used to go to his house with girls. Like, like when we were 16, that was my homie. Yep. So like when we lost Tim, that changed a lot of us though. That kind of like, that's why I say at a young age, I kind of grew up fast.
Yeah.
Whereas like I knew like, oh, life's not a game for real. Like you can go out here and lose your life. And then that's what made me start being very cautious. That what made me start making decisions of like, I always felt like I became a man at about 16, 17 years old, where it was like I was doing everything a grown man was doing at 16, 17. That's why at this age right now, 35, I feel like I'm more I'm more reserved and like I know what that is now.
Yeah.
Like I'm not curious as much no more.
Yeah.
It's
That's a huge element, though. The curiosity, right?
The
Curiosity kills the cat.
Yeah, really though.
You know, and I think that's important as we get older, and as we're trying to translate the message of this podcast to the people that are listening, is that you got to kind of hedge some of that curiosity sometimes, because the older you get, it's not as entertaining or as appealing as it was when you're younger, right? You know, it's you kind of look back and you're like, you can either see places where you gave into the curiosity and you ended up in a bad spot, or you can also see on the flip side where you just kind of pushed it back and said, all right, that's not a part of my vision that I see for myself.
Definitely.
That's not going to elevate me forward. If anything, it could just sink me into the bottom.
Yeah.
And you got to learn how to navigate through that.
But you know, like the one thing of it is like, you see how close I tell you is like, I had a lot of decisions like that. One of my friends, before him and my friends were selling drugs together before he had died.
Wow.
And my homeboy, he was playing football with me, and that's my best friend to this day still. So I think that if AJ stays alive, they still continue in the path that they do.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like decisions was like always around me to do these things. It was just a point of my time. That's why I always say it was the dream-free aspect. It was like, it got to be more than this. That was honest. I didn't know if it was more than this because I was in my environment. So that's why I always like try to expose people with that message and say like, yo, you could do better than like, just think bigger than it. I don't care if you don't know, if you got, and it was my gut feeling telling me like, yo, it's more to life than what I'm seeing every day. And that's what made me kind of be in a way of like, let me push that boundary and figure out what that is. I didn't know what it looked like. I just went with a gut feeling of like, I know it's more than this stuff.
Now the dream free, when did it become a something you would say?
Oh, that came in college. When actually I could say that's when it got defined. I could say it always been in me, but that's when I had a friend of me who was like, dream free, that's what we doing. And I was like, you know what? That got a ring to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what we going with. But I could say that ideal of me living my life in that way, I figured that out very early. I feel like I had to put my mind somewhere else in order to be able to not make those decisions in my environment. Because me, at first, it was seeing myself on the college football team.
Right.
That was my first thing. It was like, nah, I'm not going to do all this hood stuff. I ain't smoke weed, nothing. When I was in high school, I was like, nah, I'm a college football player. I'm a college football player. So my mind was already I was in my I am. I'm already thinking I'm a college football player, even though I was still in high school. So everything I ever done in my life, I always believed I was that before anybody believed I was that.
Right.
And I think that's the part of where I would say like that mental part of when it's like, Ali, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. It's like you put something so deep inside you.
And you say it.
And you say it, it's crazy. And I could say like my first dream ever was to be a college football player. I remember like since I was third or fourth grade, I didn't even want to be a pro. I just wanted to play college football.
When it first happened, what was that feeling like for you?
The craziest feeling I had was when we played Mississippi State. And that was like my first being the SEC for the day.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if Jackson State playing the SEC school for the day. Like, I was so amped for that game because it was like I seen myself here before. Wow. And it actually happened. Like, actually brought tears to my eyes before that game because I was like, I knew it was something more to life. And I knew it was something that was God in my life at that moment too, though. Like, I knew it was God. I actually knew it was a situation that was God in my life at that moment now. And it also showed me one thing in life too. I knew dreams come true. Most people don't know. Most people never had a dream come true. So they don't know that they actually work.
But you did your part in order to make that dream come true. You just didn't dream it. You did your part.
I did my part, but it's called faith. You know, it wasn't a perfect ride by far. Like, it was more like I just had faith in what happened, and I put action, and no matter how many times I got knocked down on the way there, I just kept going.
They're all learning lessons for you too.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that's what I always say about speed bumps. I mentioned that a lot in our podcast. Those are learning points for a lot of us. There's different routes that we could take when something happens. I mean, when you mentioned your friend that passed away, you could have made the choice like, let's go get these guys.
Yeah, or honestly, made the choice of where I just gave up and thought like, man, ain't nobody making it out of this.
Yeah.
And that's what I seen some people do in those situations when that happened. I seen other people got their friends killed and then turned them the different way.
Yeah.
Where they said, nah, I guess I am going to be this now.
Yeah.
And they gave up on hope. You know, they gave up. They didn't have any faith no more. That was crushed. And I seen so many people fall victim to that. That's why I wanted to be an inspiration to people's life. And I always want to help people because I seen so many people that couldn't help themselves. So I could say that's one of the reasons why, like, when he says, like, oh, he wants to be an inspiration to people, that's what really gears me.
Yeah.
Is that I just know some people, and we talked about it earlier when he was like, it's a group of people who are beautiful, who don't know actually their potential because nobody's talking to them. That's the people I really speak for, those people as well, though.
Yeah,
because I want them to know.
And I like you sharing your story just because, again, man, like, I think not only do we need to hear this as grown-ass adults, but I think the younger generation and the kids growing up need to hear this too, because some of us didn't have this. We didn't have YouTube podcasts or Instagram or all this stuff to share positive stuff like this with the younger generation.
I think that is super important because now, like, I needed somebody to talk to back then.
Yeah.
Because I could say as an adult, I still had to deal with it. That's why I could say, like, I didn't get to grow. And that's when I said earlier, until I left Philly, I didn't really understand how much trauma I actually had been through until I started putting myself in other environments where it's like, oh, you can chill out.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be that hyper vigilant person of everybody around you now. That was different.
Yeah.
Now I could say it also made me feel like I didn't have to fit in. Like, I always say if I grew up in the suburbs, man, I'd have been just a little suburban kid playing football, being happy. But then when you growing up around drug dealers, they got guns on them. You like, man, I gotta stay dangerous out here, man. Like I can't even. I want to be nice, but I can't even be nice. I gotta watch my life right now.
It's the environment we come from, right?
Yeah. And I did, and we talk about it. Me and my friends talk about it. We laugh about it too because he's like, and that's why I always try to explain the hood to people. I'm like, yo, everybody in the hood, they have these, they may have, it's survival traits they developed. It's not the fact that they're that type of people. This kid might be a geek, man, but he just had to understand he had to carry a gun because people on his block had guns.
Yeah.
It's not because he wanted to do that. But then he got sucked into it.
Yeah.
I done seen people who've been preachers, they family been preaching, they father's a preacher their whole life.
Yeah.
Like I said, my friend got killed, his father was a police officer.
Yeah, I caught that when you said that. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you can know, it's just about decisions. And go back to when I said I had to be very keen on decisions early.
Yeah.
So that's when I had understood, like, all right, decisions hold weight. Let me make the right ones. You know, and I can't say that I was totally educated all about them, but when he say people, that's why, like, my people and my friends I grew up with in Philly, we really close though, because like you said, we ain't have podcasts and things like that to bounce ideas off. I'll ask my homie, what you think it is, dog? Like, what should we do right here? Man, we shouldn't go in there. It don't feel right. So I'm like, you might be right about that right now. I thought you felt the same thing I felt.
We leaving.
We leaving.
Right? We leaving together.
We leaving. And that's what you needed, though. You needed people that was watching your back in the scenario. So I always had that type of thing where I had, like, me and my friend, that's why my best friend and me, we close to this day, totally opposite of people. But the one thing I got with him is that I done been in so many situations where I know I can trust him.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, he not gonna leave me out there. You know, and to a point where he not gonna leave me out there, even if I'm fighting against him, he gonna tell me when I'm wrong.
Right.
He gonna be like, nah, Mike, you wrong on this one.
And most people separate themselves from people like that growing up because they want yes men around them.
Well, they call you a hater now if you say that.
Yeah, a hater, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But then when you grow up and you realize that, you kick yourself in the ass saying, like, man, he was right.
Yeah, he was right though. And I call that's like the love part of it, like, person really had love for you. That they willing to have you angry with them or upset with them to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
I think today's episode, I mean, there's a lot of gems in today's show, man. I mean, I know we've talked about, you say tribe, I say my circle, but it's very similar. You need that group around you that you could go for advice where you have the answers, but they help get those right answers out of you.
Yeah, they pull it out of you, and it's, I love the analogy of the swordsmith in the Bible, and it talks about how, the swordsmith, what he'll do is how he creates the perfect sword, right? Is he'll burn it, and he'll burn it, and he'll burn it, and he'll shape it, he'll hammer it, right? And he just gets it hot. And what happens is eventually he'll be able to pull that sword out and see his own reflection in the sword. And that's when the sword's ready. And I love that because there's this piece of it that I feel like the Lord just sometimes he hammers us, right? And he's just burning out and he's letting these impurities and things be beaten out of us because he wants to be able to pick that sword up. He wants to be able to pick us up and see his reflection in it. And I think that's the most beautiful reality that we have when we've got friendships like that. A lot of times those friendships are being used as the hammer, right? Or the heat to burn some of this stuff out of us that maybe we thought we had to have in there. But the reason he's burning all that out is because it makes the sword stronger.
Right.
He wants all the weakness out of the sword, all the impurities out of the sword. Because once he's able to get all that out, that sword is then strong and unbreakable.
Ready. Yeah. Man, this is a great episode today, man. I'm glad. I'm glad this happened.
Thanks for coming, Bubba.
This was great, here.
I feel like this episode could keep going, man.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, man, we could be here all day, man.
You have to come back, Mike.
Y'all can definitely, follow the handle. You can reach out to me again at Mike_MI_C_Evans, dreamfree_world. Definitely be able to tap in with you guys. Appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I follow you right now before the episode's up. And thank you guys for checking out the episode. Of course, we encourage you to tell your friends about it. If you have any idea for guests, get at us. djmambo@gmail is my email. And I started the Adversity Instagram too.
Nice.
I just gotta remember it before I say it. I believe it's Adversity Podcast. Adversity Podcast on Instagram. Give us a follow, and we'll be back for another episode next week. All right.
Peace.
Peace.